Hello students, welcome to the lecture on performance management, and after the lecture we will be able to learn the following objectives. Explain the elements of performance management, describe the problems with performance management, define the meaning and importance of managerial performance, explain the critical success factors analysis for managerial performance, describe the business system analysis. Let's start with a brief introduction to performance management. Performance management is a system that is designed to identify the ways to achieve organizational goals through constant assessment and feedback, leading to improvement of employee performance. Performance management, unlike the performance appraisal or annual evaluation process, is an ongoing assessment of employees' history and evolution of performance management and appraisal. Performance management systems in various forms have been employed for nearly 2 millennia. In the 3rd century AD, the Chinese were not only using performance appraisal systems, but they were critiquing each other's biasness in their evaluations of their employees. During the Industrial Revolution of the 18th century, factory managers became aware of the importance of the employees' performance on their production outputs. Differences between the performance management and the performance appraisal. Employees as well as supervisors are often confused by the differences between the performance management systems and the performance appraisals. Performance appraisals, also called performance evaluations, are tools that are used to measure the effectiveness of an employee. Most organizations conduct performance appraisals once a year during an annual evaluation process. A performance management system, however, is much more dynamic. let's discuss about the elements of performance management. Armstrong identifies the 5 elements of performance management as the agreement of employee, unit and organizational goals, measurement, feedback, positive reinforcement and dialogue. These elements ensure that the performance management process is positive, successful and a spur to employee improvement. Role creation and development. In order for performance management to be effective, an employee must have a clear understanding of his or her organizational role and responsibilities. Armstrong says that the role profile defines the role in terms of the key results expected, what role holders are expected to know and be able to do, and how they are expected to behave in terms of behavioral competencies and upholding the organization's core values. Effective and smart goal creation. There are many different kinds of objectives in an organization. Armstrong identifies that effective objective setting results in an agreement on what the role holder or the employee has to achieve and is an important part of the performance management processes of defining and managing expectations and forms the point of reference for performance management. He also identifies the following types of objectives. Ongoing role or work objectives, which is based on the job description. Example, an outreach librarian would publish a newsletter for the distribution to patrons. Targets, quantifiable goals that should be met. Tasks or projects, specified results or product. Behavioral expectations, outlines desirable and undesirable behaviors. Example, excellent customer service to be provided at the circulation desk at all times. Values, outlines the values of the organization. Performance improvement, areas that need improvement. Example, improvement needed in database management. Developmental learning, provide specific areas to meet improvement needs. Assessment of goal achievement. After defining roles and setting goals, the manager and the employee must determine whether the employee had been successful during the assessment period. If the goals are SMART, then assessing the employee's performance will be simple. If the employee met the specific goal within the time frame designated, then the assessment would be a positive one. The most important aspect of the assessment is the performance review. In order to have a productive, positive performance review, Aguinis identifies 6 recommended steps. Identify what the employee has done well and poorly by citing specific positive and negative behaviors. Solicit feedback from our employee about these behaviors. Listen for reactions and explanations. Discuss the implications of changing or not changing the behaviors. Positive feedback is best, but an employee must be made aware of what will happen if any poor performance continues. Explain to the employee how skills used in the past achievements can help him overcome any current performance problems. Agree on an action plan. Encourage the employee to invest in improving his performance by asking questions such as what ideas do you have for and what suggestions do you have for. Set up a meeting to follow up and agree on the behaviors, actions and the attitudes to be evaluated. Development planning. After creating goals and assessing the progress, the employee and the employer have identified areas that can be improved. The action plan for this improvement is called development planning. This development plan ensures that employees will continue to meet the needs of the organization through the identification of their weaknesses and the opportunity to address them through workshops, classes and other educational channels. The benefits of performance management. Performance management has many benefits that the traditional annual evaluation does not. Lukey identifies 3 reasons why performance management matters. Shareholders. Those with a vested interest in the organization observe better results because the human assets of the organizations are top-notch and working in unison towards key goals. Managers are more successful because their subordinates are doing the right things correctly. Employees experience greater job security, career advancement and fatter paychecks thanks to the outstanding performance. Now let's move on to the problems with performance management. The performance management system is designed to benefit the organization, but like any system, it may meet with resistance or be unconstructively applied. If performed incorrectly, an unsuccessful performance management system can have negative consequences on the organization. Aguinis identified the following dangers of a poorly executed system. Increased turnover, use of misleading information if performed improperly, an employee's performance appraisal cannot be incorrect. Lowered self-esteem, wasted time and money, damaged relationships, decreased motivation to perform, employee burnout and job dissatisfaction, increased risk of litigation, unjustified demands on the manager's resources, varying and unfair standards and ratings, emerging biasness, unclear rating systems. In performance management, employers provide continuous appraisal through feedback and realignment of goals based on the performance. Unlike the annual evaluation process, most performance management systems, they are designed to meet the changing needs of both the organization and the employee. Armstrong identifies that performance assessment can include the following: discussing what the job holder has done and achieved, identifying any shortfalls in achieving the objectives or the meeting standards, establishing the reasons for any shortfalls including changed circumstances, agreeing to any changes required to objectives and work plans in response to changed circumstances, agreeing to any actions required by the individual or the manager to improve performance.
Performance-based assessment is a type of assessment that requires students to perform a task rather than select answers on a test. Performance assessment is also known as alternative or authentic assessment because it provides an alternative from traditional testing that authentically exhibits student knowledge through a performance task. On a traditional exam, students have a strict time limit to regurgitate information that was fed to them. This is frequently stressful for students and does not involve deep understanding of the material. Performance assessment is instead based on the philosophy shown here by the cone of learning. If students are actively saying and doing things in the classroom, they will remember much more than if they only read and listen. In fact, we tend to remember 90% of things we both say and do, and only 10% of things that we hear or read. Confucius said, "I see and I forget. I hear and I remember. I do and I understand." Performance assessment follows this saying, as students can best show their understanding through action or performance. One example of performance assessment would be to have students give an oral presentation showing what they have learned in a course. Students could also perform and explain a science experiment, or write and edit an essay as a performance assessment. Performance assessment requires more time and preparation from a teacher in order to set up authentic assessments and fair grading rubrics. However, educators will find that implementing performance assessment is well worth the extra effort, as it allows students to show their learning in deeper.
Performance management is the current buzzword and is the need in the current times of cutthroat competition and the organizational battle for leadership. Performance management is a much broader and a complicated function of HR, as it encompasses activities such as joint goal setting, continuous progress review, and frequent communication, feedback, and coaching for improved performance, implementation of employee development program, and rewarding achievements. The process of performance management starts with the joining of a new incumbent in a system and ends when an employee quits the organization. The performance review only part of an ongoing process. Frequently, when performance management is mentioned, people think of the employee performance appraisal or the review. Performance management, however, involves so much more. Properly constructed appraisals should represent a summary of an ongoing year-round dialogue. Focusing only on an annual appraisal form leads to misunderstanding and underappreciation of the benefits of the performance management. An effective performance management process enables the managers to evaluate and measure the individual performance and optimize the productivity by aligning individual employees' day-to-day actions with strategic business objectives, providing visibility and clarifying accountability related to performance expectations, documenting individual performance to support compensation and career planning decisions, establishing focus for skill development and learning activity choices, creating documentation for legal purposes to support decisions and reduce disputes. The consequences of a poorly structured process management. What is the impact of a purely structured performance management process? If individual goals are not aligned with business strategy, then time and resources are wasted. Low employee engagement levels may mean that individuals are not performing at their best. Inconsistent evaluation criteria and rewards can lead to mistrust, lower productivity, and higher attrition. If top performers see no differentiation in performance ratings, opportunities, and compensation from underperformance, morale can suffer. The lack of documentation, visibility, and accountability can negatively affect stakeholders who are demanding more and more transparency. Now let's explore the critical success factors analysis for managerial performance. Strategic planning and performance management are of significant importance to the survival of today's business. From small businesses to multinational Fortune 500 companies, these factors are critical to their operational success. What are critical success factors? This piece will focus on the first of these initiatives' critical success factors. Critical success factors are defined as a group of indispensable activities or elements that enable an organization to achieve its stated objectives, thereby ensuring the successful performance of both current and the future operations.
Critical success factors. For any business to succeed with a service or product to offer, you need to ensure that you meet the following critical success factors. 1. People must need or want what you are offering. 2. People must know where to find you, your product or your service. 3. Your product or service must be priced right for people to afford or be willing to pay. 4. You must guarantee supply of the product or service. 5. Product or service must perform at least to the level you tell people, better if possible. So remember, to succeed, there must be a need or want. You must be visible, the right price, continuity of supply, and expected performance.
Why are critical success factors necessary? Critical success factors are integral to the achievement of company goals. Without such factors, businesses have no roadmap by which to navigate their operations. Lacking guidance, senior leadership will find controlling the organization more challenging as priorities change with the wind to put out the latest fire. It is therefore of crucial importance that such factors allow senior leaderships to commit to the highest priority events needed to pursue strategic objectives, as well as utilize methods of accountability and merits for gauging success so as to better apply corrective actions. In conjunction with the other three best practice initiatives, critical success factors can also ensure that company vision and mission statements are translated into actionable strategies. In addition, these initiatives clearly identify strategies and goals that can be delegated to successfully lower levels of the organization so that personnel at all levels may focus on appropriately prioritized day-to-day activities. Such focus brings a much tighter linkage between the strategic intent and the operational performance required to achieve the goals and the objectives. How do you develop critical success factors? Critical success factors can be created through just a few simple steps. First and foremost, it is important to obtain executive sponsorship for the project. This generally also includes assembling a critical success factor team with members from the right stakeholders group such as the board, executive management, middle management, staff, customers, suppliers, and partners. The critical success factor team's mission is to identify the critical success factors that are most important to achieve the objectives that are identified in the strategic plan. The identification of critical success factors should begin with an analysis of the business's strengths, weaknesses, opportunities, and threats, SWOT. Then look for any factors that are interrelated with or have a significant impact on other areas of the business. From these, identify and refine just 5 to 10 key critical success factors. In the next stage, align these 5 to 10 critical success factors with 4 to 5 core business areas or perspectives. Such areas might include finance, operations, sales and marketing, or customer satisfaction, to name a few. It is also sometimes useful to generate relationships maps for each strategic critical success factor to determine which ones have the greatest number of relationships. Finally, determine what metrics are being reported on currently and identify what additional metrics are needed for measuring of factors. To summarize the report on and distribute the critical success factors throughout the organizations. Examples of critical success factors in action are: here are common examples of critical success factors to demonstrate how this strategy may be developed and aligned within the 4 initiatives. These particular critical success factors would be relevant to a manufacturing company. First, a manufacturing company might list maintaining ample inventory levels to ensure fill rates remain at or above 99.5% as a critical success factor. Line fill rate measures the number of pick list items that are successfully pulled when a pick list is issued to distribution. Thus, a 99.5% line fill rate means that 0.5% of all line items will be placed on back order. Another example of a common critical success factor would be, as part of a plan required to generate cash for a new product launch, improve inventory turns 10% from 3.0 turns per year to 3.3 turns per year by fiscal year end. Inventory turns generally measure how many times inventory is replaced per year. It is calculated by dividing the total cost of goods for a year by the current inventory balance. Now let's talk about the business system analysis. In order to practice systems thinking, it is essential to understand the concept of the system and how a system operates. Whether an object is considered a system or a subsystem, it depends largely on why it is being examined. If the object being analyzed is the Earth, then it is the system for the purposes of that analysis. It links to other systems. For example, the solar system might be taken into account as part of the environment in which the Earth exists, but the principal focus would be on the Earth. If the ocean were being analyzed, its relationship to the Earth would be recognized, but the main focus would be on the ocean. Systems thinking and business systems analysis. BSA involves applying systems thinking to understanding organizations and solving their structural or operational problems. When applied in organizational settings, system thinking sees the organization as a business system. Like systems in the natural world, business systems are made up of a set of interacting and interrelated processes that function together to attain a common purpose. BSA is the act of identifying, defining, and examining in detail the component parts of a business system or organization to gain insight into how the organization functions and the interrelationships between the various tasks, jobs, people, structure, and other elements. By examining the organization's systems, BSA also identifies threats the organization faces. What part of the system is working well, what part needs repair. This information can be used to redesign the organization's functions and increase the efficiency and effectiveness. Now in the end, let us summarize what we have learned in this chapter. Performance management is a system that is designed to identify the ways to achieve organizational goals through constant assessment and feedback, leading to improvement of the employee performance. A performance management system, however, is much more dynamic. The performance management system is designed to benefit the organization, but like many other systems, it may meet with resistance or be unconstructively applied. The role of HR in the present scenario has undergone a sea change, and its focus is on evolving such functional strategies which enable successful implementation of the major corporate strategies. Performance management is the current buzzword and is the need in the current times of cutthroat competition and the organizational battle for leadership. BSA involves applying systems thinking to understanding organizations and solving their structural or operational problems.